I learned very quickly that networking is essential. And that's something that I try to impart to my clients. Among other things, the importance of building strong, robust networks.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to our Find the Balance Friday episode of the Odd Coaches podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today on this Find the Balance Friday episode is Mr. Keith Washington of Next Level Coaching. Mr. Keith Washington is what I like to call a helper's helper. His journey includes positions in manufacturing management, supply chain management, and executive leadership across multiple industries and platforms. And in each of these roles, Mr. Washington was employed by organizations that were international leaders, a leader's leader. In addition, he's learned invaluable skills from corporate leaders as he witnesses their response to multiple once in a lifetime, once in a generation challenges. And I'm just so excited that he's given us some time today. Mr. Washington, how are you doing today, sir?
I am doing well, Dr. Adams. I hope you are.
Oh man, this is awesome. So in segment one, Mr. Washington's going to talk a little bit about next level coaching and introduce our audience to it. Segment two, he's given us the pleasure of reviewing our Find the Balance book project. And in segment three, we're going to just chat it up about the issues dealing with student athletes and the people who work with them today. So let's just get started. Talk to us about next level coaching.
Well, once again, Dr. Adams, it's a pleasure to be with you. I thank you so much for the invitation and affording me this tremendous opportunity to share the airwaves with you. Next Level Coaching, I'm very happy to talk about my organization. First, let me just build on the introduction that you gave, which was very nicely given. Thank you for that. But one of the things that I like to highlight before I introduce Next Level Coaching is just talk about my professional journey. Worth noting, I've had the pleasure of diversifying my background and my professional experience by traversing from one industry to the next. I've been in about 4 different industries over the past 28, 30 years. And one of the key elements of success that I found on my journey was adaptability. And Dr. Adams, I have to say that what I learned on the football field as a student athlete really prepared me for the different challenges that I encountered on my professional journey. One of the things that I witnessed throughout my journey was I noticed a lot of young professionals who were not as prepared as they may have thought they were. And all the things, all the skills, the life lessons we learn through sports can translate into a corporate experience, but sometimes there are some nuances that we just aren't prepared to navigate. And having witnessed that, I decided within the past 3 or 4 years to start Next Level Coaching because I recognized there was a dire need for training in the area of adaptability and for training in the ability to navigate the nuances of corporate America. And particularly student athletes could benefit from this training. So it was upon that premise that I started Next Level Coaching, which is a career readiness and a professional development organization.
So with that, and I fully agree with you that I use more for my athletic career in academics than I have ever used academics into athletics for some reason. Talk to us about what you would do to assist your client base. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Really build on, well, my client base, first of all, I aim to help anyone who has a desire and an interest to be a professional. Anyone who has aspirations of entering into the business world, I'm more than willing to help. I do have a predominant affinity to student athletes because I was once one. And understanding that time limitation is real. And while you have access to resources on campus, you don't always have availability. You don't always have time. So one of the things that I aim to do is help student athletes build upon the innate skills that they bring to their sport and help them understand that there is transferability from college to the corporate world. The question now is, well, how do those skills translate? And that's the journey I embark upon with my clients to really help them understand that, hey, adaptability is real. Just like you adapt from first down to fourth down, you reach into your toolbox to grab those plays and strategies that will address that circumstance. The corporate transition is no different. But if you don't have those tools in your toolbox, you don't have anything to pull from.
Interesting. So within your experience, what have you seen to be the biggest barriers of success with some of the clients that you're working with?
It's a very good question. Very good question, Dr. Adams. And I'll tell you personally, one of the things that I found to be a tremendous hurdle coming out of college into corporate, I've always had this belief and this training that hard work will pay off, and it does. But in reality, that's the cost of admission, right? You're not going to be successful if you don't work hard. What I had to learn was the importance of building relationships. If there was one thing that I had wished someone had shared with me was really the importance of networking. Because, as a student athlete, we didn't have to network to be successful. We just had to run, lift, study film, and then perform. And that discipline got us through our high school and collegiate experience and brought a lot of people a lot of success. However, I was not as adept in networking, because this connotation for me with networking was, well, let's use somebody's name and influence to get a job. That was my dynamic. That was my paradigm of networking. But as I matured professionally, I learned very quickly that networking is essential. And that's something that I try to impart to my clients. Among other things, the importance of building strong, robust networks.
That's outstanding. So fans, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back on the other side, Mr. Washington, again, has graciously reviewed our Find the Balance book project. Can't wait to hear his thoughts. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast.
The high school and college academic and athletic landscape is changing. The growing number of college transfers, as well as student athletes being able to profit off the use of their name, image, and likeness, has given student athletes the freedom and power to make life-changing decisions. That is why it is important for student athletes to be properly informed throughout the decision-making process. The difference between success and failure is often measured not by yards, but by inches, and even the most successful coaches and players use outside independent consultants to help improve their decision-making, which improves their results. That is what the CKA Save Project would like to do for student athletes across the country, improve their academic and athletic results. Our academic and athletic consulting services assist student athletes with the college decision-making process. The CKA team of former high school and college coaches can provide student athletes an independent assessment of their academic and athletic skills to assist student athletes in their college decision-making process. Let the CKA team evaluate your academic and athletic ability to assist you in finding the right fit for your academic and athletic career. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free virtual consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast, and on this special Find the Balance Friday with Mr. Keith Washington from Next Level Coaching. In segment 2, Mr. Washington gave us the pleasure of reviewing our Find the Balance book project. And Mr. Washington, I'd love for you to share your insights on the Find the Balance book project.
Dr. Adams, I have to say, after reading the book, and it was a pleasure reading it, and thank you again for putting such incredible information out for student athletes to have access to. I think it's a must read. I think it's a must read, not only for student athletes, but for parents, for coaches, for administration, even those who support the student athletes from a distance, in the background. I think your work is tremendous. Your research is thorough, and your findings truly resonated with me. And I couldn't agree more with the things that you highlighted in the book that I'm happy to talk about this morning.
Well, one, we appreciate that piece. And if you could, from your lens, can you talk about 1 to 2 things that maybe you took away from the work that may be beneficial to some aspect of our audience?
Well, actually, I can do that and then some. I've identified a few points, in particular, chapters 1, why finding the balance between academic and athletics, athletic motivation is important. What resonated there with me is that, one of the dangers of early success for a student athlete is the unintentional compromise of academic pursuit. And what it does, and you highlighted it very, very well in the book, it could really fuel a fire that could be difficult to put out. Because think about this, the extrinsic reward that comes with athletic success is built on a lot of work, a lot of years of commitment and dedication. And if you step into that collegiate arena and you're getting the accolades that reward the work that you've done, if you're not well balanced, it could really compromise that progress towards academic success. Because we reward the work that we've done, and it reinforces that behavior. So going into that arena is with a good balanced approach is extremely important.
Yes, and I appreciate that. And one of the things that I counsel student athletes on is the
Right.
over-reliance on academic identity, because at some point, at some time, at some place, it's going to end. And on the Odd Coaches podcast, we talk about feel free, get the bag, do whatever you got to do, but please make sure you get that piece of paper, because that's going to last longer than any race, any game, or anything like that. So again, I
Absolutely.
do appreciate that piece. Is there anything else before we close this segment that you'd like to mention about the book project?
Absolutely. Again, in chapter 5, stakeholder relationships, I thought that was a very, very good chapter. And I think the relationship between student athletes and parents and coaches, those relationships are obvious. They're very important. I think what's even as critical, if not more, is the relationship that student athletes build with teachers and administration. For the reasons you just mentioned, it's very important that our student athletes graduate. And again, the biggest advocate, the biggest supporter towards that goal is really the relationships with the teachers, the professors, and try to eradicate this perception, this negative perception that comes with student athletes. Be different. Show them that, hey, I am here and I am serious about what I'm doing, and that could be demonstrated by getting to class early, not on time, early. As you mentioned in the book, sitting in the front of the class, asking questions, staying engaged, and work to eradicate that negative perception that often comes with student athletes. So that again, 1 or 2 points of many that I can speak to relative to the project. And I think what you're doing with your nonprofit is truly necessary and truly appreciated. So kudos to you and your staff and your team for what you do every day.
Thank you very much. And before we close this segment, I do want to mention, with you here, there does seem to be a growing adversarial relationship between the academic and athletic worlds. You can look to Northwestern University's situation and problems right now. It just seems that no one's communicating with the others. So those stakeholder relationships, they do mean a lot. And I appreciate the kind words about that chapter. And as we move forward in segment 3, we're going to take a deep dive into a lot of the current issues dealing with student athletes and the people who work with them. Stay tuned on the Odd Coaches podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Folarin Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams, just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to our Find the Balance Friday edition of the Odd Coaches Podcast with Mr. Keith Washington. And in segment 3, we're just going to chat it up about the issues going on today. Mr. Washington, share your thoughts on NIL, name, image, and likeness. How are you feeling about the the direction NIL is going?
It's a very interesting topic. In fact, I went back to my old college just to see if I had any eligibility left, to see if I can take advantage of what's now in place. But no, and with all jokes aside, I think NIL is a very, very interesting topic. And I like to talk about this topic by starting with the premise, right? When we talk about name, image, and likeness, if I don't play, if I don't perform, then my name, my image, and my likeness has very little value. If I do play, if I do perform, then it definitely leads to a greater appreciation for my name, image, and likeness. We live in a capitalistic society. And when I think about name, image, and likeness, I've created a brand. Student athletes have created a brand that has become attractive to businesses. And I don't think there's any danger whatsoever. In fact, I think it's fair that student athletes get the opportunity to capitalize on the brand that they've created. Now, coming from corporate America invests millions of dollars every year in creating a brand. And when I think about student athletes and the amount of years and the dollars committed to developing a skill that they're able to display, and it creates a value, I don't see any danger at all in allowing that student athlete to capitalize on what they have created. Now, with that opportunity comes responsibilities. And I think that's where the conversation needs to happen. And Dr. Adams, we talked earlier about this whole concept of adaptability. Well, the train of NIL has left the station. And I don't think there's anything that either of us can do to bring that train back.
It is gone, man. It's out
gone,
there.
right? It's out there. It's out there. So now we have to adapt and really acclimate to this new reality and help equip our student athletes to understand how to be responsible when it comes to capitalizing on this new venue, this new platform. But economically, from a business perspective, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, free market is free market, and the market will dictate what goes on.
100%.
My issue with the quote unquote outrage of NIL is no one cares about Olympic sport athletes. It is only when young, primarily people of color, have the opportunity to monetize is that everybody goes crazy. The chemistry major can transfer, can do whatever they want. Mark Zuckerberg
Right.
makes Facebook in a dorm room. There's so many things that the regular student has. Now that we're able to profit on our name, image, and likeness, it still comes back for me to education. When you're in high school, are you taking economics? Are you taking marketing courses? Are you taking accounting courses? Are you pushing yourself in math as much as you're pushing yourself to go to prospect camps and travel teams and so forth? And then when you get to college, has your college that you selected and selected you should be mutually beneficial, have they created mechanisms and platforms and onboarding in terms of how to teach you how to deal with this? Because Uncle Samuel's coming for you. And you're going to understand the jock text, whether you're ready to understand it or not. And as you're
100%.
tweeting all the things you're doing, Somebody's looking at it, and come April, there's going to be some what we like to call some boo-boo faces.
Right.
And say, wait a second. So it is more education. Now, we talk on the show about legislation and how the NCAA wants Congress involved and how individual states are doing their own thing. And the Articles of Confederation taught you that if you leave it up to the states, you go get what you get. So that's where the conversation should go in terms of creating boundaries, guardrails, some structures, and some accountability measures. But in terms of NIL, man, have at it. Just make sure you're educated on it. Second topic. Yeah, go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say I totally agree with you. It's just equipping and educating. But I don't think any student athlete should be deprived of getting a return on his investment. Because when you think about the amount of time a student athlete puts into training, from the time he's 5 years old until he's 18 or 22, it's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And if that investment has led to a value creation, why deprive that individual of the opportunity to capitalize on his investment? Let's now equip him. Let's educate him, to your point.
Okay.
Totally agree with you.
So now let's talk about the transfer portal. Everyone is up in arms about the freedom of movement, where coaches have had freedom of movement. Now that players have freedom of movement, especially with the COVID situation, seems to be a lot of chatter and conversations. Where do you lie in terms of the transfer portal?
I'm with you. I don't think anyone has had an uproar about college coaches having the opportunity to move from one job to another. They've certainly put in the time to recruit individuals, and if a better opportunity becomes available, they take advantage of it, right? So you have all these recruits who have made commitments based on that particular recruiting coach. And now that they've signed a contract to go to the college of choice or that they've been recruited to, and that coach leaves, that person, that student athlete in the past was stuck there for the next 4 years without, and if he transferred, he lost eligibility, as I recall. So the transfer portal, again, it's supply and demand, Dr. Adams. If I can supply something that is highly valued or more highly valued at another institution, meaning there's a demand for me, a greater demand, again, it's in the same vein as the NIL. I think if I've created a value, I should have the portability to relocate it. Again, I go back to the responsibility that comes with opportunity. Now, let's make sure that student athlete is educated. Let's make sure that student athlete understands the ramifications of those decisions, right? And then let's equip the student athlete or these student athletes with that intelligence so that they can make the best responsible decisions for them. Something you mentioned in the book that I think is very important. This was in chapter number, chapter 11. I made some notes here, and it's examining the relationship between academic and athletic motivation. And you mentioned in the book how important it is for colleges to really focus on understanding the why. And that was such a poignant point, that when you understand the why, it leads to better balance. And it also leads to more informed decisions. So I think, again, that collaboration between student athlete and coach is so important so that they can collaborate and do what's in the best interest of the student athlete as well as the program. So that there should be some reciprocity, I think, that exists between both. And understanding that why will certainly facilitate that reciprocity.
Yes. And the only wrinkle or tweak I would make to the transfer portal is to have the public component of, to transfer, you have to have met measurable academic progress. In other words, the NCAA and the different institutions say you need to, you've got 5 years to do 4, and you need to make 20% progress towards graduation. So if you would like to transfer, as long as your credits and everything are good, you should have a clean transfer with no delay. If there's any academic hiccup, that's the only reason why there should be a pause. But coaching's leave and all of that, I believe there has to be some type of academic component to make sure that, hey, your credits are up to date. Out of the 30 credits you obtained 24 that semester, there's some type of threshold academically. So you're not just after the football season, after the volleyball season, I'm stopped going to class, I jump in the portal and so I just that's the only wrinkle I would add, but you should have freedom of movement. And with great power comes great responsibility, because oftentimes you go into the portal and then there's no place for you. But that's your right to mess that up. You should have the ability to make mistakes, because that's what life's all about. Learning and adapting, as you say, from whatever your situation is. The old commercial is, an educated consumer is our best customer. I don't think
Right.
our consumers are as educated as they could be on all of these things. Finally, sir, I'd like to get your thoughts. If you had the platform which we're providing you, what do you think the biggest needs of coaches are? We've talked a lot about athletes, but it's hard coaching right now. It's hard dealing with all of the things coming to you. So what would you say to our coaches if you have the chance to advise our coaches?
Thank you for the question, Dr. Adams. The first thing I would say, I would suggest all the coaches read your book, because I think it would be very helpful for coaches also to find the balance, as well as athletic directors. At the end of the day, in corporate, one of the axioms that we embrace is that what gets measured gets done.
What gets measured and monitored on our end gets done. Yes, indeed. I agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So today, coaches are really, their success is measured by predominantly one metric, and that's wins versus losses. But when we want something in corporate America done at the highest level, we pay for performance. So in executive packages, if you truly embrace the ideology of diversity, then that's part of your performance metric. It's not profit and loss is obviously businesses exist to earn a profit. But, when we talk about values, we put our money on what we value. And I think if athletic directors sought more aggressively to find the balance between athletics and academics, I think there should be an additional metric added to the performance assessment of coaches, not just wins and losses, but also your graduation rate, overall academic performance of your student athletes, and put that as a metric upon which salaries are based. And I think the ripple effect that you'll see, if that's implemented at the collegiate level, it's going to trickle down to the high school levels. It's going to change the dynamics of recruiting. It's going to trickle down to middle schools, Pop Warner, and everything else. Because now, understanding what the metrics are, it now changes the dynamics of recruitment. And I think that will have a tremendous impact positively on every student athlete across the country. One thing you noted in the book is that high school academic requirements lag collegiate entrance requirements. And until that balance is struck, I think we're going to be having a lot more conversations like this in terms of efforts to find that balance.
I think that is an awesome way to put a bow on this great episode. Mr. Washington, please share your social media information as well as your website and any current projects you're working on. And our super producer, Kelly, will put everything nice on the screen so our fans who are watching us on YouTube can check you out.
Well, thank you for the opportunity again, Dr. Adams. My website information is www.nlcareercoach.com. Again, www.nlcareercoach.com. My email address is very similar, nlcareercoach@gmail.com. And I'm building my other social media platforms that are not yet available, but if you visit the website at a later time, I'll make sure it's available there. But those are the two primary means of reach.
That is awesome. I want to thank you for taking the time with us. I want our listeners and viewers to check out Mr. Washington on Next Level Coaching. So on behalf of my tag team partner and our cavalcade of stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening. and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we will see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.